We'll continue with Leo's work versus video game decision right now. We ended with him at point P1. He's making $20 an hour. He's making $20 an hour, and he's decided that he's going to work 40 and play 40. So he's working 40. As he works 40, he earns $20 an hour. That gives him $700 after he has an endowment. Okay, so that's where he's at right now, P1. Now let's say that he gets a pay raise from $20 a week to $30 a week. So I kind of skipped over this, but you would want to know how to create a new budget constraint. Okay, you have the same endowment point, but your income goes up. Your maximum income is 80 times 30 minus 100 is 2,300. And this is budget constraint 2. Now what we want to focus on is this. What will Leo do? Okay, what will Leo do? Leo has some options, right? Leo can move from P1 to P2, okay? And that option may be what would be the only realistic option for many of us. A lot of us have an 8 to 5 job. If we get a raise, we still have to be there 8 to 5. We'd continue working 40 hours a week. So we'd work from P1 to P2, but we're earning more money, so we have a higher income. The second option, however, may be if what we assume in this model is that we have some flexibility. Okay, we have some flexibility. We can cobble together other jobs, or we can add or subtract hours as we need. Perhaps it's most fitting for a freelance writer. Let's look at. We'll go on to other options, moving from P1 to P3. So I'll put that right here. P1 to P3 would be adding 10 hours. So maybe that's what Leo decides to do. Or the third option would be cutting back hours, moving from P1 right here to P4, which would be about right here. We'll call that P1 to P4. So what is Leo going to do? Well, let's look at the three options. Let's look at P1 to P2 first. Okay, moving from P1 to P2, Leo continues working at 40 hours. Okay, he's at 40 hours at point 1 and 40 hours at point 2. What we're going to do to analyze these things is we want to compare when your wage changes how many hours you work. Okay, and what this is going to show us, you'll start to recognize it in a minute for those who have taken other economics courses. But at point 1, okay, what is Leo making? He's making $20 an hour, and he's working 40 hours a week. So point 1 over here, when he's working 40 hours, he's making $20. When he's making $20 an hour, he's working 40 hours. So that's point P1, or I'll just call it 1 to be brief. P2, his wage goes up to $30 an hour, and he decides, okay, I'm going to still work 40 hours a week. So when wage goes up to 30, he decides to still work 40 hours a week. That's point 2. This curve here goes from point 1 to 2, okay, point 1 to 2, and this is Leo's labor supply curve. Labor supply. Okay, and just so happens that his labor supply curve is very inelastic, because when the wage goes up, he doesn't change his hours worked. Okay, that's one thing he could do, is continue to work the same. What I'd like you to do is, how much would he be making? What is his income? What is his income at P2? I'm not going to do it here because you've seen how to do it, but I'd like you to do that for P2, P3, and P4. See what these levels of income would be. That's one thing you need to do. All right, that's one thing Leo might do. Okay, keep his hours the same. Let's look at P3. All right, at P3, we'll go in. Okay, what's Leo starting off with? He starts at P1 when he's working 20 hours a week. He's working when he's making 20 hours a week. Very confusing. Sorry, I'm not doing very good right here. Okay, when he's making $20 an hour, he's working 40 hours a week. At P3, he's now making $30 an hour. But what has he done? Well, if you move from P2 to P3, you're deciding to work 10 more. So I'll do plus 10 here. What has he done? He's decided, hey, my opportunity cost of video games has become more expensive, right? You know, he wants to play video games a lot. When it was $20 an hour, he was willing to do it. But now it's $30 an hour, so he's going to play less video games, okay? That makes you want to play less video games and work more, right? Okay, when that's the case, when you're deciding, okay, here's our trade-off between playing video games and working. What he's doing is he was playing 40 hours of video games. Now he's going to only play 30. Okay, he's substituting his time. This is what we call the substitution effect. Okay, and when the substitution effect is strong, when the substitution effect is particularly strong, we're going to have labor supply curves that look like this. He's moved up to 30 hours a week, and now he's working 50 hours, 40 plus 10. So when he's at 30 hours a week, he's at 50 hours of work. Okay, this is point 3, P3. So what is his labor supply curve? Well, it's one that goes through these points. This is his labor supply curve. Oops. His labor supply curve. Okay, and I'll call this 1, 3. Okay, this first labor supply curve, to differentiate them, that's supply 1, 2, where he moves from 1 to 2. Okay, this point 1 to 3, this is one that's dominated by the substitution effect. Okay, substitution effect. Leo decides to play less and work more. Okay, now the final one is P1 to P4. Okay, so P1 to P4, other things could be going on. Okay, let's look at this. Now Leo has more income, so he can play more. Right? He's making more money. He has higher max income. So he could be, instead, he could think, hey, I'm richer now. Maybe I decide to work 10 less, minus 10. Okay, that would put him about at P4. So his income would be above what it was. He'd be able to work less and still make a little bit more income. Okay, I also want you to do the income for P4 and for P3. You calculate those. But just by our graph, if you're working 50 on our new budget constraint, you're making a little bit more. Okay? So what does that make you think, right? I can work less and still make the same income I was making. Maybe he only needs to get by on $700 a week. Okay? He'd started off when he was making $20 an hour, the same as all the others. He was working 40 hours a week. And that was getting him to the $700. Now, since he's making $30 an hour, he decides to work 10 less. So he cuts back to 30. So I'll call this P4. Okay? When you move from P1 to P4, let's look at our new labor supply curve. Okay? This is not a demand curve because it's downward sloping. It's still a supply curve. Okay? It's his labor supply. Okay? Workers are the suppliers of labor. All right? What's going on here? Well, he's not going with the substitution effect. He's going with what we call the income effect. Since he has a higher income, he can afford to work less and play more. Effect. And that's what's going on. Moving from P1 to P4, the income effect is dominant. Okay? And it leads to a negative supply curve, one where when you get a higher wage, you work less. When the decision making is dominated by the substitution effect, when Leo gets a higher wage, he decides to work more. Okay? Now, as you read through the website, you'll see that some people fall into this camp, some people fall into this camp. You will fall into this camp at some aspects of your life, and to this camp. Okay? So let's go back to our original question. What will Leo do? Well, the answer is it depends. Okay? It depends on Leo's goals. Okay? Is his goals towards video games? If your goal is towards video games, you're going to do this. You're going to have indifference curves that move out this way. If your goal is making money, you'll have indifference curves that go out this way, and you'll go from P1 to P3. All right? So it just depends. What will Leo do? It depends on Leo's goals.